Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. Well, I think it's exciting anyway. It's amazing how quickly a week passes. Now, first of all, I'm going to boil the living crap out of you by doing the odd one out competition. And who is the odd one out? And the odd one out is regarding nations, okay? Is it Gandhi, number one? Number two, Mr. H. I won't read his full name out, of course, because I don't want to get booted off of YouTube. So is it number one, Gandhi, two, Mr. H, three, Muhammad Ali, the other boxer, four, Oswald Mosley, or five, Carlton Hove Kalergi? I bet you some clever sod gets this bit in about a minute. So I'll leave that up there for a few moments and let you sort of stew over it for a while. So odd one out, regarding nations, Gandhi, Hitler, oh, said it, never mind, Muhammad Ali, Oswald Mosley, or Carlton Hove Kalergi. So there we go. Now, between you and I have sinned this week. Well, it was last week actually, because a week or two back I said that Poundland is blacklisted because they have a bloody great queue outside their shop and they have someone at the door called a door marshal that stops you going in. Well, I realised I hate using this term, door marshal is a member of staff, and the poor sod probably doesn't really want to do it anyway, but they're forced to do it. So, you know, they must get a lot of people being rude to them. I mean, I'm not. I mean, if there's no queue there and they stop me going, I just say, oh, I'll go and walk away. Anyway, Friday I went to the local high street and there was no queue. And I walked straight in. Yippee! So I do apologise. I have sinned. You know, I've been into Poundland. Now, here's an interesting question. Hang on, let's get rid of this thingy bob for a while. Here's an interesting question. What is it about Poundland bird food? Because it's making all the birds in my garden randy. I don't know if it's the time of year, but I mean, first of all, I bought this Poundland. I bought quite a lot of Poundland bird food until I found another supply from a supermarket where I got 12.5 kilograms for £6, which was a lot cheaper than Poundland. But anyway, I'm using up the Poundland bird food, and Eric and Snowy, the two pigeons in my garden, blimey, they're at it like rabbits. And there's a couple of sparrows at it as well. And you know, a young innocent lad like myself is not safe feeding the birds. You wonder whether they're going to try and shake me next. I mean, I'm a human, yes, and they're birds. But my neighbour came in the other day, lady, and she just came in. There's two pigeons. That's it. And there's a couple of sparrows in the garden. That's it. And there's a couple of rooks sitting around. Going, oh, look at that. Whoa, what's going on there? I sort of, yes, well, yes, this garden is normally Mary Whitehouse approved. You know, we don't have stuff like this going on. But okay, what is it about Poundland bird food that's making all the birds randy? Do you think Poundland could put some bromide in it or something like that? Anyway, on with the show. As we say, I'll just show this odd one out regarding nations. Gandhi, Mr. H, Muhammad Ali, Oswald Mosley, Carlton Hove Kalergi. And people are probably wondering, who is Carlton Hove Kalergi? Well, all would be revealed soon. So there we go. Right, now, after last week's programme, someone said, what's usury? Because I assume that people know what usury is. So I've decided this week to just very briefly explain what usury is. Now, I'll try and be as simple as possible. I'm not from a banking background. I said a banking with a B, and that's not my profession, but you don't have to be in finance. See, I've got away easier word there, to understand usury. It's quite simple. Imagine that you're a nation. Let's keep things on simple terms, shall we? You're a nation and you need £1,000 to build schools and hospitals and whatever. So you go to the banks, maybe Rothschilds or whatever, and they'll say, yes, here's £1,000 in your hand. Go away and build your banks and schools and hospitals and whatever. So you go away and build your schools and hospitals and whatever, and you come back and you say, here, here's your £1,000 back. And they say, there's compound interest. It's £1,100 now. Oh, okay, right. So you tax the nation to get people to work harder, and you pay back the £1,100. And they say, oh, no. It's £1,500 now. And it goes on and on and on. You never pay back the debt. In a nutshell, that's basically usury. That's very, very simple terms, what it's all about, really. And that is why throughout my lifetime and probably your lifetime and everybody else's lifetime, all we've had is a financial crisis. Because that's how usury works. And what usury scammers do, which is the banks, is they hold nations to ransom, and it's in their interest to have wars, because if they finance both sides in a war, what will happen is governments get huge loans from the banks to pay for the war. So you're getting it from both sides. So it's in their interest to have wars, or what we've got at the moment, which shall we say economic crisis, because with an economic crisis, governments borrow more money, don't they? So that might give you a little clue onto what's happening now. And when you look at the facts, and I'm talking about real facts, and seeing through the so-called experts, who, to me, an X is something that's past, and a spurt is a continuous drip, well, you get some idea what's really going on. So once you get to grips with usury, then what's happening on the news all goes into insignificance. I mean, we've got all this, Black Lives Matter. Now, if I or you or any of us said, right, let's have a protest, an innocent protest in London, saying down with usury, let's arrest all the usury scammers, it's doubtful if about half a dozen of us would turn up. I'll probably be there on my own, I'm not that type of person, I'm not, but that is the fact of the matter. So you've got to ask the question, who's behind all these protests, and why is it always a political agenda behind them? Anyway, let's have a look in chat and see if any clever buggers have got any answers to this. Let's have a look. What we got here? Python, Milligan, Benny Hill on the side. Yep. Well, the title of this program is Monty Python on Steroids. And has anybody seen that video from Primark? It's a cracker. They're showing you all these safety things that they're doing for the public, where you have to stand on a certain square and you have to do this and do that. And going shopping now is just like Monty Python on steroids. It is. Right. So, oh, blimey. Here we go. It could be, Adrian. You never know. Now, he says it's Kalergi, Adrian. I can't announce it just yet, can I? Come on. I've got to let people sweat a bit. Adrian, right, here we go. Hello, Stoey. There's more to it than just money. Yeah, you're right there, Adrian. What was it is? And I've not seen Silly Walks yet. Oh, you got to see it. I didn't really like Python that much, but his Ministry of Silly Walks I like the most, actually. That was quite funny. Oh, and the Hungarian phrase book. That's a good one as well. And then we got, I'm trying to listen to 3 live streams at once. I know, but shall I shout a little bit so I can actually so you hear me? Right, so let's go back to our competition. And where are we? Dumpty 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 dump. Right. Well, the clever sod this week. So I don't mean to call you sod, but the clever bugger this week is Adrian, because he's right. It's number 5. It's Caldenhove Kalergi, and the reason why is the other 4 believed in their own people, and they believed in nation states. Gandhi believed in his own people, Indians. Mr. H believed in Deutschland and Germans. Muhammad Ali believed in having a nation state. Very interesting what he believed in. And of course, Oswald Mosley did, but Caldenhove Kalergi believed in population replacement of Europe, which of course is going on today. And this is what we're going through with this multi-dooflopism. I won't say the word. And I won't go too deeply in that because I'm not against anybody. It's the principle of population replacement that I'm angry with. It's not the individuals, it's the people who are manipulating things at high level. So Caldenhove Kalergi, he lived, where is he now? Now, he was born in 1894 and he croaked it in 1972. And his mummy was from Japan and his daddy was Austrian. And he wrote a book. Just one moment, I've lost myself as I normally do. Here we go. He wrote a book called Practical Idealism in 1929. And in it, he said that he wanted Europe to have a complete population replacement with people from the third world. And this is what we've got, or this is what we're heading towards. And of course, he started off a prize system. And guess who won the prize in 1956? And this prize was called the Charlemagne Prize. And the first one to win it, of course, in 1950 was Richard von Caldenhove Kalergi. So he loved himself, didn't he? But this so-called patriotic man who went through the war and made sure that the usury scammers were okay. Oops, what? Pardon. Yes, it was Churchill won it in 1956. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? You know, when you think about it, it's supposed to be patriotic. Was he really? No, he wasn't. And as I've said time and time again, I'll probably bore you shitless with this. Governments do not run countries. Usury scammers run countries. And I'm going to hasten to add unelected usury scammers, i.e. banks. They rule countries. Unelected civil servants who are faceless, you never see them, run countries. And governments are the sort of Punch and Judy act to take your minds away from those two first facts. And that's it. And that's why I don't vote. And that's why if election time you get a hairy-ass politician on your step, the quickest way of getting him or her off your step, quicker than a whippet with a rocket up its arse, is to say, yes, I'd like to discuss usury with you. Because either they haven't got the foggiest idea what usury is, 1, 2, they'll make out that they don't know what it is, or they'll quickly change the subject, or 9 times out of 10, as what happened where I live, he was off my step quicker than grease lightning. It really, you know, that was the politician. Anyway, let's have a quick look in chat, and I'll explain a little bit more about usury. Because instead of having Black Lives Matters, why can't we have ban usury? That would be, I would support that. Oh, yes. Right, so let's have a look in chat. What we've got here? No. Oh, all right, do we? I hope you're not watching Vinnie Jones I don't know. Oh, I've got that. I hope not. And Stewie says no. Okay, right. Oh, right. Now, I'll just tell you this Colden-Ho-Kalergi prize, which is the Charlemagne Prize. I'll just run through it a little bit with you. Now, when I was looking up, by the way, the Colden-Ho-Kalergi plan, there used to be a very good website that explained it in full, and it seems that Google have wiped it off. And I think it's called Western Spring or something like that. I can't find it. So try looking through it wrong teeth, through DuckDuckGo, or go on, use Brave webs browser, and try not to use Google. It might still be there somewhere, but it used to come up about first or second on the list. I can't see it this time, so they've obviously, you know, kicked it up the backside, so to speak, because we can't have truth coming through, can we? No. Right, so let's have a look at some jolly interesting. Winston Churchill, as I said, won the Charlemagne Prize in 1956, and then we go down. Edward Heath won it in 1963. Interesting, isn't it? Then we got the European Commission won it in 1969. Then Roy Jenkins. Now you're probably saying, why don't I say Roy Jenkins? Well, the reason I say Roy Jenkins is because he had a lisp and he spoke like that. And I've got a funny story about Roy Jenkins when I finish this little bit. So we go down, see if there's any other about it. Oh, Henry Kissinger won it in 1987. And Jacques Delors won it in 1992. And then Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands won it in 1996. Tony Blair won it in 1999, and Bill Clinton won it in 2000. It's all sort of like a jigsaw puzzle fitting together, these arse-licking gits. Oh, Angela Swinehart Merkel won it in 2008. And as we go down, we've got Herman Van Rompuy, or Rumpy Pumpy as I call him, won it in 2014. And someone called Timothy Garton Ash, who the bloody hell is he? Won it in 2017. And this year it's Klaus Ihonis. Who's he when he's out? Don't know. Sounds like a disease, doesn't it? Now, about Roy Jenkins. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently this did actually happen. And in the 60s, when Roy Jenkins was in the Labour government, a lot of MPs went to Peru on a sort of a goodwill visit, you see. And Roy Jenkins was a bit for the Terps and for the ladies, apparently. Now, you've probably heard this one before, but the old ones are the best, you know. And this is supposed to have happened. Make up your own mind whether it's happened. I think it's a little bit of frill around the edges. But anyway, Roy Jenkins was standing up at this Peruvian High Commission place, waffling on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And the other MPs, I think Tony Benn was there. I think he was the one that told the story. They're sort of pulling his jacket, saying, "Sit down, Roy, sit down." And he's going, and of course, as the nights go on, he's getting more and more pissed, you see. But anyway, he sees this apparition of this, what he thinks is a female, come through the door, and some music starts. So he goes staggering over. Oh, he goes, "Excuse me, will you have this dance with me, please?" And the response was, "No." He says, "Why not?" He said, "Because this is the Peruvian national anthem, and I am the Cardinal of Lima." So, now, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's good, isn't it? And the other one was when another one surrounding Peru was when the Peruvian ambassador came to Britain, and as him and Queenie sitting in the royal coach, and the horse gets had this absolute massive fart, and the Queen goes, "Pardon." The Peruvian ambassador says, "Your English are so polite. Before you apologized, I thought that was the horse." So, again, I don't think it's true, but there we are. Anyway, I'm going to read out a little something about usury. Just one moment. Boy, it's hot tonight, isn't it? Right. And this is from my blog. Now, we pay tax for the country to pay the usury scam, an ever-increasing debt that doesn't exist, possibly one of the greatest frauds of all time. Now, under Edward I, Longshanks, in the 14th century, usury was banned, punishable by death. He booted out all the usury scammers, and the country economically boomed. That was until Cromwell came along in the 17th century. Now, to pay his new model army, he got the money from Dutch usury scammers. The Dutch usury scammers financed Cromwell as they wanted to get back into Britain and start up the usury scam again. Cromwell won the Civil War and welcomed Dutch usury scammers back into Britain with open arms. And of course, that included the people we're not allowed to criticise. Now, the usury scam then kicked off. The Bank of England was founded in 1694, run by the people we are not allowed to criticise. Reintroducing usury plunged the masses into poverty, ensuring future generations would be financially enslaved, paying ever-increasing taxes to pay off a national debt that doesn't exist. A handful of families became mega rich running the scam, eventually over time enabling them to own most of the Earth's resources and using governments as their puppets. In the 20th century, the usury scam enabled those families to finance communism. It was a social experiment in enslaving the masses into believing in a false, unobtainable dream whilst they were robbed of their possessions and freedom. The usury scam families made an even bigger fortune. I'm talking about Rothschilds, to name about half a dozen of them. Made an even bigger fortune from it. Now they have moved their attention to the West, where a mutated form of communism gained from 20th century experience is being implemented using social engineering and a fake consensus, just as they did in Mao's China and Stalin's Soviet Union. In my view, this current fake thingamabob, if you get what I mean, is an integral part of it. The fake global warming nonsense has evolved into Black Lives Matter. It's designed to turn youths and the hard of thinking into activists. Similar youth activism happened in former communist countries, ultimately financed by the usury scammers. The objective is the same. Usury scammers are obsessed with depopulation, which is always carried out under the guise of a fake crisis. Put two and two together and made four yet? A fake crisis also enables people to accept poverty and slavery. All done before in communist China and the former Soviet Union, and now playing out in the West. Wake up, people. And when you think about it, we could actually print our own debt-free currency, as someone did in 1933 in Deutschland. And we all know what happened to him, but that's a different story. Now let's have a look in chat, shall we? Ha 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 ha. A word that we won't mention, but you know what I mean, Adrian. I'll just say achoo, shall we? Has proven that they run all countries. Yeah. There's always some fake scam that's to do with the economy. And if you don't think this, what we've got, this so-called crisis we've got now, is not to do with the economy, think again. The usury scammers never really, no, they haven't left. Oh, no, they're welcomed back by Cromwell. He welcomed them back with open arms. He loved them. Another one from Asia, brilliant. Wall Street financed the coup of Russia, which took part hidden by World War I. Spot on there, Adrian. And did you know that the Russian Revolution wasn't run by Russians? They were trained in America. So, and they were financed by Wall Street. So it's rather interesting, isn't it, as you fit the dots together. So there we go. Very interesting. Now, a lot of people say, "Would you explain usury to them?" They don't get it. Oh, if you get a loan, you've got to pay it back, don't you? Yeah, but you don't pay it back over and over and over and over and become enslaved by it. You get a loan, you pay it back, and you know, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So government is not ruling us. No. It's the usury scammers. They say jump, and Boris says how high. It's as simple as that. And now it's time for a dirty joke. Anyone for a dirty joke? Now, got a problem this week, you see. I was going to excuse me one moment. I was going to say the absolute filthy one. I've tried to clean it up before the show, but I just couldn't clean it up, about the mechanical lady. But no, I don't think I can tell that one. I think I'll be booted off of YouTube faster than greased lightning. And I did think, so I'm going to do in its place until I could think of a clean way of saying that joke about the mechanical robotic lady from Japan. I think I'll have to leave that one aside. So here's one. It's a funeral procession, and there's a bloke with a dog, and there's a bloody great queue of blokes behind the hearse. This is a bit strange, isn't it? You know, he looks out. Crumbs, this is a bit odd. And he goes up to the fellow with a dog. He says, "Excuse me," he said, "why is there so many? You know, why has he got such a huge funeral procession?" He said, "Well," he says, "this dog's special." Yeah, he said, "Unfortunately," he said, "it killed my mother-in-law. It hates mother-in-laws. It sort of savaged her to death." Really? He said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, it's terrible." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Can I borrow that dog?" He said, "Get to the end of the bloody queue." Terrible joke, isn't it? Anyway, I almost forgot. A friend of mine who lives up to north, you know, the place where they put gravy on their chips. Ugh. Anyway, the gravy and chip people, I don't think he does. In Manchester area last night, he reported, this is to do with UFOs. Well, might be, I don't know. And I'm reading it here. A strange bright light at between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning. And it was in the southwest direction. And he said similar happened when a volcano erupted in Iceland. Anybody else know anything about that? Might be something for Ben to look at, because he's into things like that. So, strange lights in the sky. So there was just one light apparently last night between 3 and 4 o'clock, and it was really very, very bright, and it wasn't the moon, but it was very bright. So I wonder if anybody in the Manchester area saw that, because I did say to him, I said, "Sure it wasn't the Northern Lights?" He said, No. I could see this light. With Northern Lights, it's all sort of flashing and things like that, you see, going across the sky. But no, this was definitely a light. Anyway, before I go, that joke was so bad that I think I'd better give you a bonus one, because, you know, it really was a three cannibals. Oh, it's just politically incorrect one. Three cannibals, you see. One of them dies. One says to the other one, "Blimey, it's a shame to waste him, isn't it?" He says, "Yeah, he's a bit." He said, "Well, shall we eat him?" He said, "Yeah, but how are we going to share it out fairly?" So one of the cannibals said, "Well, look, I lived in England." The other one said, "So did I." He said, "Well, I lived in Liverpool and supported Hartlepool Football Club." And he said, "So I'll have the liver and the heart." And the other bloke said, "Well, I lived in Cockfosters and supported Arsenal, but I don't feel very hungry at the moment." Yes. Anyway, on that note, I'll zoom off, and I might move this program. So I say this is an experiment from Mondays. I might shunt back to Thursdays. See how it goes. because there's not many other spare days in the week, actually. So it might go back to Thursday. Who knows? But from now on, yeah, I'll keep it on Mondays. And remember, remain an individual and have a good laugh. And thank you very much for joining me this evening. And good night.